brothers that they want to see bleed. Don't want us to succeed and don't want us to breathe. It was the love they couldn't see that the man was trying to preach. They saw Lucifer, not Martin Luther, and that's why they killed the kid. That's something that we really need to be. It's not a man with the badge, he's coming after you and me. He's trying to capture you and me, bring disaster to you and me. Don't want to hear after you and me, open chapters on you and me. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like it ain't safe to be around the man who was supposed to keep it safe for me. So as I pray for you, I hope y'all pray for me. Cause my God is your God and he's amazing. As the system is the plan, they try to get rid of us. They say it's land of the free, but living freedom that they give to us like man. Why do they hate me? And why is still the only place they try to take me? Are they gonna shoot me cause I'm black doing the little over speed? Are they gonna choke me while I'm screaming? I can't breathe. Why am I seeing all my brothers in the state prison? Zimmerman killed Trayvon and still get away with it. I wonder, yeah, do they just hate the color brown? We screaming for the change, but they don't seem to hear the sound. We're all kings and queens, we can't let them take our crown. We gotta keep hope and let the system break us down. Pursue and understand, I'm not different than my color man, cause under God, we all sisters and brothers, man.
In very artistic kinds of ways. This amazing phenom is also a social justice activist, and as just a matter of a few hours ago is now a mayoral candidate. And one of the very first public appearances in one of this big race, one is putting together for Nikkita Oliver.
Shout out to our young people for their brilliance, their ingenuity, their songs, their creativity, and their resistance. I am honored every Thursday to get to spend 4 class periods in this school with 11th graders. And every day that I'm here, I'm inspired by them. So thank you, Dr. Wiley, for having me here. I'm going to share a poem with y'all. But before I do that, I want to acknowledge it is International Women's Day. And our sister here sang a song shouting out our brothers, but I also want to make sure that we take time to honor and uplift our sisters and our women, our mothers, our aunties, our trans sisters, our trans women of color. Is not actually served if those who are most marginalized, those who are most pressed to the bottom in our communities remain in those positions. We have to be willing to center those folks, to lift up from the bottom and pull from the margins, because that's the only way we as communities in solidarity with each other are ever truly going to be healthy and do well. So we have to honor the human rights, the human dignity of all people, and the right to choose who you're going to be based on your human dignity. So, give it up one more time for all the women. I am incredibly honored that a community, some elders, some aunties, some folks standing over here, spent time with me over the past 3 months just talking about the environment that we're in. We're looking at a federal administration that doesn't care about human rights, doesn't care about water, doesn't care about black and brown people, doesn't care about women's rights or education. And we asked ourselves, what are we going to do? And we decided we're going to start from the grassroots. We're going to start at our local level. We're going to start here with our government and be transformational about our process and how we do things, because we need restoration in our belief in each other, not the political process, but in each other. So I'm humbled and honored to be running in this next mayoral race. We haven't had a woman as mayor in Seattle since 1926. I think it's about time that changes. Let's go down to the river to pray, studying about those good old days, and who shall wear the golden crown. God, show me the way. Oh, family, let's go down, don't you want to go down? Oh, family, let's go down to the river to pray. When times get hard, I can hear my auntie singing in the back of the chapel, let's go down to the river to pray. I can hear my Baba's voice echo that justice rolls down like rain from the mountaintops into the valleys below. It pools in that place where it is most needed. That justice flows like water, and that water is life. Watch how water transforms the landscape. How we may see the terrain as rough and unchangeable, but the water will flow and make something new. That water and justice are a lot alike. See how they move. She tells me that justice is just us being just us. That without us there is no justice. Do you hear that? Justice is just us being just us. Without us there is no justice. Without us there is no resistance. Without us the system persists in its defiance, dividing us further from the divinity that is our connection with humanity, dividing us further from the divinity that is our connection with Mother Earth. So suddenly all we see is property. That's when cash begins to rule everything around me, and suddenly everyone and everything becomes nothing but property. Suddenly we're seen improperly, and the man is steadily blocking these attempts to break free. But understand, there can be no fair trade agreements where black bodies are still sold as stocks and bonds, and politicians are building their wealth on this black market. Black bodies, marketed and targeted, murdered extrajudiciously with impunity, not just locally but globally. See, we're put to the ground by the same hands that brought us here to work these lands. The same hands that will sell us back our homelands, over-processed and overpriced till we become underfed. Over-processed and overpriced till we become underfed. But yo, I come from a resilient people. We're the resilient people, still causing them trouble, so suddenly we're more dead than alive. See how this place will make you see improperly? Only seeing people as property, and the negatives are missing. Why isn't anyone looking for them? In the land of the brave, the home of the thief. Wait, I got that wrong. The home of the brave, the home of the slave. Wait, I keep getting it wrong. We keep getting it wrong. Why are we trying to get it right? The natives are missing. Why isn't anyone looking for them as the rivers run red around us? It's these politics. Many ticks, blood-sucking politicians are the only thing better than their fangs or their blood-stained hands. Look at them so deep in the cookie jar. We call it capitalism. Who pays the toll for your feudalism while the 10% prosper on profits while the rest of us race to the bottom in chains and body bags? To be buried much more than 6 feet deep under more fair trade agreements, the only thing fairly traded is our rage against this machine. A machine that will have us believe we are not enough. We can never have enough, but we must be the ones to stand up and say, enough is enough, is enough, is enough, is enough. It's always been enough because we've always had enough. There is no scarcity. We have enough between you and me, so we become the fire. We become the burn. We become the billowing tower of smoke and civil disobedience. You and I are the revolution. We are the re-evolution of our own humanity. We are the re-evolution of our own humanity. See, justice is what love looks like in public. Cornel West said that. And if justice is what love looks like in public, I have to question whether or not we love ourselves. Because how can you show love for another if you do not love yourself? Our revolution is love. And it starts here so that in public we can be just us, because justice is just us being just us. Justice is just us being just us without us. There is no justice. Thank you, y'all.
To introduce our main event, are a couple of young people who are main events around here with Taryn and Idris. Please come on up. Taryn is our resident Shaun King expert.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. And welcome to Franklin. It's a good honor to have you guys here. Tonight, we have the pleasure of listening on someone whose political writings have influenced many of us here today. Shaun King has especially been influential when it comes to talking about the Black Lives Matter movement throughout Seattle, throughout the United States. And throughout his many writings, and also throughout many of his speeches, he speaks about how racial discrimination, police brutality, police profiling, social stigmas, and stereotypes, how these all plague the Black community for decades.
For years, Shaun Kingston has been a resounding voice for the voiceless. In 7th grade, I wrote my first article of King's in response to the killing and the verdict of Trayvon Martin. His words were of comfort and empowerment to a distraught and confused mind. Through social media, I, along with many of you today, have experienced the power of King's voice and how he's captivated so many of us here today. So without further ado, I present to you Shaun King.
Seattle, what's up? Good to see y'all. Hey, I guess y'all have Facebook. Yeah, good to see you. Glad to see you. Honored to be here with you tonight. You know, it's an exciting thing for me to be here. I love Seattle. I love Seattle. Put your hands together one time for the young people who helped pull us tonight off. I want to thank a few people just before we get started, and you know, I just want to tell you, like, when we're done, I'll take like
1,000 selfies, okay? So, I just want you to be able to tune in and listen. I'm gonna try to teach kind of complicated lesson that I think will help you. And so don't worry about, you can take pictures and notes or whatever. We'll take pictures afterwards too, but there's some people I really want to thank. I really want to thank the staff of Franklin High School for inviting us and for pulling this off. That's an amazing thing, man. I mean, you have a pretty woke staff. Because here's what happened, because I literally just got an email from the assistant principal and was like, hey, I heard you were looking for a place. And literally by like 3 hours later, we decided we were going to be here, and it took a lot of people to pull this off, because even though it seems as simple as just opening the doors, it's not nearly that simple. So put your hands together one more time for the staff here. And I want to give a shout out to Nikkita. Hey man, here, how you doing? I want to give a shout out to Nikkita for not just for her amazing spoken word, but I've heard so many powerful things about Nikkita's integrity and her leadership, and I'm excited that you are excited that she is running for mayor, and we need people who break the mold, who are outside of what is typical in this city and other cities, and so she can win, right? She can win. This is not for show. This is about change. And before we get into it, I want you to hear me. I mean this, and I don't want you to think I say this in every city that I go, but Seattle is really setting the pace for the country right now. I know you see it. I know you feel it. Like Seattle has like a radical edge to it. And it has lots of deeply skilled, committed organizers. And when you all of a sudden find Donald Trump as your president, all of a sudden, what Seattle really stands for and what cities stand for, all of a sudden it really matters. Because the truth is, and I'm an incredibly optimistic person, the truth is, if we are going to see change happen over the next 4 years or 8 years, it's not going to happen on the federal level. It's going to happen locally. And this is your city. If you love Seattle, this is the time where you hold leaders accountable. You replace ineffective leaders with people that you trust and people that have your heart. And I was blown away, and what you may not see, because I'm not here, I'm from afar, I can kind of see it differently than it may feel here. But when Seattle City Council voted to divest from Wells Fargo, it was a radical move. Like, we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're not talking millions. We're talking about billions of dollars. Oh, billions. And when people saw what Seattle did, and it was a unanimous vote, and it was the culmination of so much hard work behind the scenes from grassroots organizers and activists. But when other big cities around the country, including my home city of New York City, when other big cities saw it, they were like, oh, we can do that. And so what I want you to understand is, when stuff happens here in Seattle, it reverberates around the country. And so already we're seeing New York City is saying, hey, maybe we need to do that. Other cities have already started to vote and pass votes and pass ordinances. The city of Santa Monica, in Oakland, they're talking about it in Los Angeles and San Francisco. And so what happens here in Seattle, it affects you because it's local, but it sets the tone for the entire country. And so now is the time that we organize with our whole heart and do it locally. And so, like, we have enough people in this room to make radical waves in this city. And what I'm trying to say, and I'll close out on that, is that making waves in this city changes the country. Like, one of the questions I get, probably more than any other question, is, Shaun, what can I do to stop Donald Trump? And you probably even had that thought yourself. Like, you would probably ask yourself, what can I do to stop him. And what I want you to understand is one of the most effective things you can do to stop him is to work your butt off for real hardcore local change. And I think that the divestment from Wells Fargo was big, but I think, to me, it really boils down to stopping the construction of a $200 million jail for them. And what I need you to understand is that there's a direct connection between the construction of jails and Donald Trump. Right? Listen, since he was elected, private prison stocks have gone up 40%. The Justice Department has openly talked about how they are going to begin, did you hear this? Begin prosecuting, potentially even in states that have legalized marijuana, begin prosecuting people for it because it's still illegal federally. Like, they are determined to increase the number of black and brown bodies in local jails and state jails and in federal prisons. And if you stop the construction of this jail, it is in essence, forgive my illustration, it's a middle finger to Donald Trump. And we need to understand that. And so it's a direct connection there. You know, a few people ask me to be PG-13, or better, and I'm kind of a PG-13 kind of guy anyway, and so I may push the boundaries a little bit. But how many of you here are high school students? Are there any high school students in the room? Cool, yeah. What's up? What's up? How about college students? Any college students in the room? Cool. Yeah, good to see you. Who the rest of y'all? Y'all need to get back to school. Y'all need to go back to school. But I know a lot of you. I thank you so much for your support when I write what I write, be it on Facebook or Twitter or anywhere else. When I write my articles for the Daily News, I'm aware that on the other end of that are real people reading it. Like when I write what I write, when I publish it, when I send it to my editors, like I'm not doing it esoterically. I know there are real people on the other end who are going to click on that and read it and be informed by it or be frustrated by it or be inspired by it. So I thank you all so much for reading what I write, for sharing it. How cool is it that we created a Facebook event that somebody canceled, by the way? And like, what did they think was going to happen by canceling the event? They thought we weren't going to show up? It was like, we're still here, but I know for a lot of you it's kind of a weird experience to see somebody you know. Like most of you know me as a profile picture. And so it's a little strange to see, a profile picture walking and talking and moving. But tonight, I hope you leave inspired, but I'm really trying to teach a certain lesson. And in a minute, I'm wondering, I know those of you in the back, and those of you who are over here, I don't know that you can even see this screen. So I don't know how we're going to work that out, because this presentation, it will lose like 35% of its value if you can't see the screen. And so I want to figure out a way. We'll figure it out. I don't care if you come over here and sit on the floor, if we move the screen. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I want you to be able to see it. It'll have a lot more weight. Like you might have to do, like we call it crisscross applesauce. Or, you know what that is, where you just sit on the floor and cross your legs a little bit. So, sorry to make you uncomfortable, but I want you to be able to enjoy it. Yeah, I absolutely. Hope we come right here on the floor too. That's cool with me too. Yeah, whatever. That's a real definitely my telly survivors. good. We're good? Hey, guys. I got a little crowd down here. Thank y'all. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, buddy. How are you? Good to see you. Y'all can see it? Good enough? All right. Let me see if this works. Good. It's grassroots. It's grassroots, right? We're just friends. Just friends hanging out, talking and learning. What I'm going to talk about tonight is it's a core concept. I'm talking about how time works. Okay, I want you to leave here understanding how history unfolds. But really, I want to get to the root of how people progress over time, how humanity unfolds over time. Because I think we made a lot of assumptions about where we are as a country that aren't true. And a lot of us, hey mom, with the headphones, that was smart. Yeah, that's a real parent move. You got like the device, parent, that's real, thank you. The real talk though, it touches my heart to see you here with your babies that you pressed through and came out with your babies, but I want to teach a difficult lesson, a rather painful lesson, a gut-wrenching lesson about where we are as a country. Because I think at the core of our frustration is a deep misunderstanding of how we got where we are, even a fundamental misunderstanding of where we are right now. And things keep happening and we keep acting surprised. And our surprise is evidence that we don't quite understand where we are right now. And I need us to leave this room not inspired so much, because I think you're already inspired. Frustration is a form of inspiration. Like you are inspired enough to take off tonight, to make your way here, to come here. Many of you got here I heard you were out in the rain at 5:30. And so I appreciate, God bless you for that. You're inspired already. I want to add, through your inspiration, a new lens through which to see the world that we're in, because I think if you fully grasp where we are, you'd understand the necessity of hardcore organizing. I think if you fully understood where we are, you would wake up tomorrow living like it was an emergency. And I think where we are, it's my belief, and I'll press it with evidence, it's my belief that we need to organize like our lives depend on it. Because what we're finding out is that they do.
Right.
I want to teach you through the lens of, and people are always surprised to come to a presentation from somebody in the Black Lives Matter movement and see a big hairy white man on the screen. And so, like, I had a couple people tell me, it's like, who's the hairy white man on the screen? I like just dying to know. Well, I was in grad school, and I enrolled in this class. And for those of you who are in high school, you'll experience this pretty soon. When you're in college, there's about this 2-week period called the add drop period. And it's this period where you go to your classes for a couple weeks and determine which ones are good and which ones suck. And you get this opportunity to decide if you're going to drop a class or add a class. And this was the spring of 2015. And I was taking this class as in a Master's of History program. I was taking this class called the Introduction to Historiography. And it was a required class, and it was so terrible. Oh, it was just painfully boring. And I had the immediate thought, like, I need to log into the website, and many of you have done this before, and see if I'm still in the add drop period. And I got to the website, I looked at the calendar, and I had like 3 more days to drop the class. And then I went, and I had never dropped the class before. I went, figured out how to drop it, and before I dropped it, I went to see what else was available. And when you get in college, you'll see this, for the young people that are here, each college has like 6 woke professors. And their classes fill up overnight. And so, and then there are like 6 woke professors and like 15 kind of woke professors. You know, they would not pass for woke outside of a college campus, but on the college campus, it's like every now and then they say something that's kind of woke. Their classes were full, the woke classes were full, and like the only thing that was like available, I kid you, in my mind, I don't know if this is true, but in my mind, it was advanced badminton. It was something like that. The only thing that fit was something I saw, and I was like, what the hell am I going to do with advanced badminton? And so I had the thought, I was like, I am stuck with this class. And I had the class again on the following Friday, and I decided I was going to stick with it. And the first thing I saw was this man's face. And I'm just going to tell you how it happened in my life. I saw the man's face, and I was like, man, what do you have to teach me? And I found myself, I'm embarrassed to say this 2 years later, I found myself angry at this man who had done nothing to me. Like, the man's been dead literally for 165 years. And I literally had to ask myself, Shaun, is it the class that's jacked up, or is it you? And I mean, I literally asked myself that question, and I realized it was me. And I'm gonna tell you where we were. So this is the spring of 2015. The fall of 2014 was a transformative season for this entire country. And as I reflected on why I was so bothered by this man who had done nothing to me, I realized, I was like, I think I'm depressed. Like, I had this moment, I was like, I think something's wrong with me. And as I reflected back over what I had just experienced over the past 6 months or so, I think that's what happened. In July of 2014, before I ever saw this man's face, in July of 2014, I was living in Los Angeles, and I had a really cushy job at an environmental charity called Global Green. And an amazing place, sweetest, nicest people. And I was the director of communications for Global Green, overseeing all communications for the charity on a national level. And I'd actually fought really hard to get the job. And it was outside of my normal comfort zone. I'd never worked for an environmental charity. I had almost always worked in criminal justice. I worked for years in the juvenile justice system in Atlanta and throughout Georgia. I worked in the charity space. I was a high school history and civics teacher. And but I had developed, over my lifetime working in charities, I developed a lot of new skills on building email lists and social media. So I interviewed for this great job and got it. And I was in my office one day, and I got an email that changed my life. And this is really my origin story of how I came to do this work. And that's how life works. You can't predict this email. I could not have planned on this type of email. I got an email from a buddy of mine that I went to college with. I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta. And when I was a student at Morehouse, I Like, I was a hardcore activist. Like, I owned my own bullhorn. Like, I was that dude. You know, like, I owned my own megaphone. And we were leading protests, even, sadly, frustratingly, we were leading protests against police brutality, even when I was a student. When I was a student at Morehouse, a brother named Amadou Diallo, an African immigrant, was shot and killed in the Bronx, shot 41 times by the NYPD on the doorstep of his home. He was not even the man that they claimed they were looking for. He was completely unarmed, pulled out his wallet, they say, we don't even know if that happened, pulled out his wallet, they said his wallet looked like a gun. Have you ever seen a wallet that looked like a gun? So much so that it scared you enough to shoot a man 41 times. We protested that. A few months later, there was a brother named Shaun who was shot 50 times by the NYPD on his wedding day. Hours before he was scheduled to get married, leaving his bachelor party again, unarmed and broken no laws, shot 50 times in his car. They claimed they thought he was somebody else, killed him hours before his wedding. This is in 99 and 2000. And there's something weird that happens. The people who knew me in college, and for those of you who are in college, you'll experience this, and for some of you it's good, and for some of you it's not. People will always know you for who you were in college. Like, because I had not seen those people in like 15 years, they still saw me as Shaun King, the activist. And so my buddy wrote me and he said, Shaun, this was not a common email, this was new. He said, Shaun, there is a video on YouTube. And he said, there is a black man who was like in his 40s, 50s maybe, and he said police are harassing him on the middle of the street in New York. And he said the brother is telling them, please leave me alone, please stop harassing me. And he said all of a sudden an officer comes up behind him, puts him in a chokehold, wrestles him to the ground, and chokes him. And in the spoken word piece that we heard earlier from the students, they said, I can't breathe. And that's what the brother said. That's what the guy said in the email. He said, Shaun, in the video, the guy tells the police a dozen times that he can't breathe. They said, Shaun, he dies there on the sidewalk. And I had the thought, and any of you who work in a corporate office, I had the thought like, and again, I had never seen a video like that before. I had the thought like, I don't even know if I should click on this link. And you know, like when you're at work, like at your job, you don't, like there's certain emails you don't know if you can open those up, or certain you know, like certain Facebook videos you don't know if you can click on because the music might be inappropriate or something. And so I looked around and I clicked on it, and it was Eric Garner. And I saw it was exactly as my friend described, but worse. In the flesh, a man saying over and over and over and over again that he couldn't breathe, and then he sure as heck died right there on the sidewalk. And I was shook. I can't explain it. Like, all of us have had a story that hit us like a ton of bricks, and it just hit me. I didn't want to shake it. I just couldn't forget it. It haunted me, it disturbed me, it bothered me. I had never seen anything like that with my own eyes before. There had never been a viral video of police brutality on Twitter or Facebook. That had never happened before. And I had the thought, and it made a lot of sense. It sounds stupid to me now, but then it made a lot of sense. I had the thought, I'm gonna share this video, and they're gonna arrest the officer who did this. Right, who laughed at me? Who did that? Oh, that was it. But you know, at the time, the thought was, that should have been what happened. And I found out maybe about 2 days later, eventually I came to know Eric Garner's family, his mother, his wife, his children, his daughter Erica is a good friend of mine. We campaigned all over the country for Bernie Sanders together, and yeah, Bernie, what's up, Bernie? Yeah. Bernie gets a lot of Washington love, I know. I wish Washington could choose the president. We'd be a lot better. Washington and California, Oregon. Sometimes I do think we need to split this West Coast thing off a little bit and do our own little own little thing over here, you know? Some people are talking about that, but it's a little complicated. We won't even get into all that right now. It's a little complicated. And somebody sent me a law, and it said that 10 years before Eric Garner was killed, they had banned chokeholds in New York. And I was like, got him. Like I was like playing detective, you know, that's what I thought. I was like, we got it. And I was not a graphic designer, like, so I literally taught myself how to do screenshots of the law. I like taught myself how to illegally download videos from YouTube. And I taught myself how to edit the videos and put captions on them. And there weren't a whole lot of apps that made that so easy like it does now. And so I was like, I'm gonna share this with everybody I know. I'm gonna share this law, I'm gonna share the video, and somebody's gonna be held accountable. And for several weeks, I became obsessed with that case, to the point that I started doing a terrible job at Global Green. And I give them shout outs everywhere I go, because that direct deposit continued to hit my account, even though I was not doing any decent work for Global Green whatsoever. They were like the sweetest. They knew what I was doing. Like they knew I was fighting for something righteous that had nothing to do with the environment. And I think they just didn't have the courage to fire me because I was doing something really important. I did not work for the New York Daily News. I was not a journalist. I was not an activist in that sense. And I was just telling my friends about it. And in about a week, the whole world knew Eric Garner's name, the whole world. And I was writing his story for my friends on Facebook. I did not even have a public Facebook page at the time, just my friends on Facebook. And I got a text from a friend of mine who said, Shaun, this is 3 weeks after Eric Garner was killed. He said, Shaun, I'm sending you a link to a live video. And he said, man, there's a neighborhood, that's how he said it, there's a neighborhood in St. Louis called Ferguson. And he said, right now, folk are losing it. And he said, it's on the local news, and he said, it's like, people are going off. And he said, man, police shot and killed a kid, and the kid is in the middle of the street, his family is there, folk are screaming at the police, and you could literally see blood flowing down the street. I clicked on the link, and it was emotional. I mean, it was like, you could tell that was people's friend, that was their family. And people were not even allowed to go touch him or cover him up. And folk were it was 100 degrees outside on a hot summer day, and folk were fuming. And I knew as soon as I clicked on the link, I was like, oh my God, this is about to boil over. By that night, people were grieving and angry and hurt and crushed, and they brought out dogs to the community. And the dogs, people were furious and heartbroken. And they brought out dogs, and the German Shepherds were like literally getting right up on people. And I was like, what am I watching here? And I had the thought, listen, this is how it unfolded in my mind. I had the thought, oh my God, they're killing us every 2 to 3 weeks. That's what I thought. That's what most of us thought. The next day, somebody emailed me and said, Shaun, there's a brother at a Walmart in Ohio. He was in the pet food section on the phone with his girlfriend who had just had a baby. And police roll up into Walmart and shoot and kill him in the pet food section. He committed no crime, no law, unarmed. I was like, in my mind, I was like, that can't be what really happened. I saw the video, and that's exactly what happened. A good brother named John Crawford, shot and killed by police. And then I had the thought, they're not killing us every 2 to 3 weeks, it's like every 2 to 3 days. By the next month, I realized it was not every 2 to 3 days, it was every couple hours. And some days, 5, 6, 7, and we had days last year where 12 people were shot and killed by police in a day. And there are countries where people have not been killed by police in decades. began fighting for John Crawford and fighting across here in Seattle, all over the country, protesting and fighting. And we didn't even know what to do. March, sit in, die in. We were creating new stuff, stopping traffic. Like, we didn't know what to do. We were just like, I know I'm hurt. I know I'm angry. I know this is unjust. I know this is not right. And I had the thought, we're going to show the world how wrong this is. And they're going to hold somebody accountable. You have to think back. These in the 1850s. That clearly there was no Wikipedia. There was no Google. There was no internet. There weren't telephones. There really wasn't radio in the sense that we have it today. There was not television. There was not international news. And so here he is in the place of time where there's very little technology, and he wants to say, what does humanity look like from the beginning until then? And it was a very difficult undertaking that took him about 35 years. And as he began doing it, he saw some trends. When he laid out all of human history, he saw some trends that shook him. And it's those trends, one trend in particular, that I'm going to tell you about. Now, this is a picture, and I don't know how well you can see it. This is a picture of thousands and thousands of faces. Just last night, I saw for the first time on here, I see Chewbacca. I've been doing this for a while. I had never noticed Chewbacca on here. Who always gets me right here is a rerun from What's Happening. Now, there's some young people in the room who don't really know. You're not old enough to know who Rerun from What's Happening is. Particularly probably if you're white and young, you definitely don't know who Rerun from What's Happening is. And so later, I'm doing you a favor. I'm doing you a huge favor right now. Go to YouTube. Type Rerun, What's Happening, Dance. And put dance in there. Is there anybody who can do the rerun dance? In this big room, there's got to be somebody. Hey, go ahead, man. You got it? You got it? You just raised your hand, I thought. Oh. Hey, lady, how are you? You do the rerun dance? Come on, one time for me. I'm not asking nothing of you. You do it at home? She says you do it. Somebody's lying. Either you, one of y'all, I can tell. I think on the right, I think the lady on the right is lying. You do the rerun dance? Oh, now she says you do it. Oh, man. Yeah. But when you get home, do it. But just know. Hey, Shaun, you got it. Oh, I can't do it. I can't put it with my arm. I definitely can't do it. But just know that Rerun was not on Leopold von Ranke's timeline of human history. But he did create something that looked a lot like this. The first thing he began doing was he began creating this huge list of every noteworthy human being he could find. Literally, it was a weird, eclectic list of every hero, every villain, every artist, every inventor, every warlord, every president. Every person that he could find that was noteworthy throughout human history. He began assembling their biographies. He began categorizing them by nation and time. And this timeline of human history that he built was really fueled by people. And immediately, he began getting a hunch that when you looked at time, scientifically, that time did not work quite the way people thought it worked. And he was shook. I'm going to tell you what he saw. What he saw, can you all see this? This is important. What he saw was people thought human beings were getting better and better and better and better and better and better. The prevailing sentiment of the day was, imagine these are the early humans right here, early humanity. And in this top right-hand corner is us now. the prevailing sentiment was, these people are a little better than these people, who made some improvements over these people, who got a little better than them, and a little better than them, and a little better than them, and a little better than them. But when von Ranke actually laid out all of human history in chronological order, he noticed that people were confusing the steady improvement of technology. He noticed that technology was getting better and better and better and better and better. People were confusing the steady improvement of technology with the steady improvement of humanity. What he found was that human beings were absolutely making better and better and better and better gadgets. This is in the 1850s. And he's talking about the wheel and tires and how rubber is being used for wheels and tires. He's talking about transportation. He talked about medicine, and he gave this illustration that is crazy. He said, wow, for most of humanity, when you had to have surgery, you were awake. And he was like, they're doing this wild thing. They're finding ways to put people to sleep during surgery. And he said, but everybody's not waking up. And he's like, one day, people will be so amazing that they will put people to sleep for surgery and they will mainly wake up. But back then, that wasn't the case. I mean, think about, I love when we have a room with people from different generations. Think about the telephone. How it's gotten better and better and better. Now, I remember when the telephone used to be tied to the wall. Now, there's some young people in the room who are like, what? What does that even mean? I remember when the telephone was hooked to the wall in the kitchen of my mother's house, and there was this long curly cord hanging down. And here's how you had a private conversation. You got the phone off the wall and then stretched that cord as far as you could stretch it, and then you did this, right? And having a conversation like with your significant other meant covering your mouth a little bit, speaking low, or like doing it late at night conversation. But I always knew it. And see, young people, you don't know anything about this. I'm 37, but I've been with my wife for 22 years, and amazing woman. Anybody who can be with me for 22 years is special. That's what I know. And so I would be on the phone with my girlfriend, who's my wife now. And we were on those phones with the long cords on the wall. But her mother also had a phone back in the bedroom. So you don't know anything about this now. So I would be on the phone with my girlfriend, and every now and then her mother would pick up the phone in the bedroom and not say anything. And all you had to do was you could put it on mute or push the button, and she would listen. And when the conversation would get a little saucy, you know, all of a sudden she'd be like, oh, hey, you need to go do the dishes. And then we had a thought, we'd be like, she been on here, because I didn't hear anybody pick up the phone. And so technology think about how much the phone has changed. Do you remember when they invented the cordless phone? I remember when they invented the cordless phone, and at first it had this long silver wire thing you had to pull out. And do you remember, maybe I'm gonna take it way back. Do you remember every now and then somebody would sit on the antenna and it would break, and then for a while it would dangle, and like you would literally you'd be on the phone holding up. You remember? And then eventually you would just you're like, this thing is not worth a damn. You would unscrew it, but then you basically had to use it like the phone on the wall. It would only barely work in like one room. That when von Ranke looked at the timeline of human history, he saw what we see. That technology is getting better and better and better. Like we see it just in our lifetime. Like I remember when phones could first take pictures. And it would take like 90 seconds to text a photo, just a photo to a friend. The notion, like now some of you watch an entire series on Netflix on your phone. Like that's brand new. And what Von Ranke found was people were confusing the steady improvement of technology with the steady improvement of humanity. And he was disturbed by it. And here's what he found. As he laid out, this is a pictorial diagram of the history of London. What he found when he laid out human history from the beginning of humanity until contemporary times was that humanity actually looked more like this. That sometimes, yeah, I see what you're doing there. Sometimes human beings were amazing. And sometimes human beings absolutely sucked. That it was not this. When Von Ranke laid it out, it was not human beings are getting better and better and better and better. And damn it, right now, human beings are awesome. What he found was it looked a lot more like this. That in human history, this is how time works. That sometimes humanity, this is what he found, that sometimes, it's hard to imagine, human beings treated each other with kindness. I don't mean a few of them, I mean most of them. It's like we're thinking like, nah. He's found periods of human history where there was no war. I don't mean for a week, but I mean for years. He found periods of human history where there was no war, there was no famine. He found decades of human history where people pretty much got along. Where nations did not invade nations, where people just lived their life. Of course they had troubles. And what he described was, really, instead of humanity looking like this, on a steady incline, what he described was that humanity, if this is the beginning of humanity, and that's where we are now, so humanity is a series of peaks and valleys. And hear my heart, I'm not saying that that is Barack Obama, okay, and that this is Donald Trump, but I might be saying that this is Barack Obama and this is Donald Trump, right? Because here's the thing. If this is true, if this is how humanity works, and we are here in this top right-hand corner, that would mean that Donald Trump is peak humanity. All right, what's your name, man? Samir. Samir is like belly laughs at the notion that Barack Obama and that Donald Trump is peak humanity. Like, I don't even think his wife believes he's peak humanity. That's why she's not trying to move to the White House. She's like, okay, she's like, hold on. You mean I have this place all to myself? She's like, I'm staying in New York, you go to Washington, D.C. Like, you have Donald Trump at least, at the very least, gives us a few laughs every now and then. And you have to laugh to keep from crying. Did you see, and Seattle had a lot to do with this, and so did Brooklyn, where I live. You know, he signed this executive order, we call it the Muslim ban, and courtrooms all over America were having fights over it. And the ACLU, including right here in Seattle, fought it, and protests broke out in airports all over the country. And courtroom after courtroom, and judge after judge, like, no, this is unconstitutional. They said it here in Seattle, they said it in Brooklyn, they said it in Boston. I mean, he was losing over and over and over and over again. Then, a 3-judge panel made up of Democrats and Republicans, again, ruled against the Muslim ban, and then Donald Trump wrote a tweet. I don't know if you saw the tweet. He said, "See you in court." And I had the thought, like, who are you saying that to? Because it appears right now that court is a place where you lose very miserably. Like, who tells 3 judges, see you in court? I mean, I thought about it, and he basically tweeted, catch me outside. That's basically what it was, the 70-year-old man version of catch me outside. And I'm thinking, did Donald Trump just tweet catch me outside? That's basically what see you in court to 3 judges when you've lost over and over and over in court. It's like, why did you just say see you in court? And I had the thought, this really happened. I had the thought, that is probably going to be the dumbest thing he ever says or does. But here's the thing. I happened to not die that night. And I woke up the next morning, and so did Donald Trump. And I thought, I was like, I don't know how much worse it can get than see you in court. And he had a press conference with the Prime Minister of Japan. So the Prime Minister of Japan is standing here, and Donald Trump is standing over here. And there's this weird thing. The Prime Minister of Japan was speaking Japanese. That happens sometimes. Who knew? And for about 15 minutes, Donald Trump, listening to the Prime Minister of Japan, is shaking his head no, nodding his head yes, sometimes and people started noticing, hold on, he did not have his translation headphones in. And that for about 15 minutes, he was pretending like he understood Japanese. Like, people have let that go. Like, we should not have let that one go. Like, he throws so much at you, so much ridiculous, that we let that one go. Like, every time he does a press conference, we should ask him, what did you think that man was saying at that press conference? Excuse me, sir, you remember that time you were at the press conference and the man was speaking Japanese and you were nodding your head yes and no? What were you nodding your head yes and no about, sir? Like, we should ask him that every chance I just want to know. And so I did a poll on Twitter and I said, what's worse, see you in court or pretending to know Japanese for 15 minutes? And it was about a 50-50 split. And so, if that is true, that would mean Donald Trump is like the best we got. And you know and I know, all jokes aside, he is not the best we've got. I honestly, sincerely think that if we could do a complete do-over of this whole thing, that we probably wouldn't have Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, and we would wash this out and start over and do something fresh. And what Leopold von Ranke found was humanity, we want humanity to look like this. There's something, psychologists write about this very idea. We want to believe that we are doing it better than the people who came before us. There's actually something painful about the thought that we are screwing it up way worse than those who came before us. And psychologists actually say the reason we believe this is how time works is our brain, protecting itself, wants to believe that we got it a little better than them and they got it a little better than them, and that we keep improving it. But what von Ranke said was, nah, this is how humanity works. Sometimes humanity is amazing, and sometimes humanity is terrible. If this is how time works, let me press this case here. If this is how time works, how do we explain this? For those of you in the back who can't see it, this is an actual diagram. And those of you that are in the back, these are human beings. And this is a diagram where they tried to determine how many human beings can we fit on this ship, because we are in the business of buying and selling and trading human beings. So we need to create a diagram for how many human beings we can fit on the bottom and on the top. Here's what I found. I did the math on this. If this is the beginning of humanity right here, early humans, and this is us today right here, then this right here, the transatlantic slave trade, took place about right here. In the scheme of human history, the transatlantic slave trade did not take place here. It took place about at 3/4 of the final bar of humanity. In the scheme of human history, this is new. And if we are steadily getting better, how do you explain that? Because that was 300 years of ugliness. I'll push it harder. How do you explain him? See, this is a diagram. This is a man. How do you explain the wounds on his back? If this is how time works, that we're constantly getting better, how do you explain these people? Because what I know is, in the scheme of human history, this took place about right here. If that's the beginning of time and this is now, there are people who survived the Holocaust who live in Seattle right now. And survivors of the Holocaust are speaking out against Donald Trump all over the world and saying that the time we are in right now reminds them of a dangerous time they already experienced. You should follow on Facebook and Twitter the Anne Frank Center. The Anne Frank Center daily speaks out against what they see. They're not political, but they keep seeing things that remind them specifically of the genocidal Holocaust that happened in this world before. If humanity is steadily getting better, how do we explain this pile of shoes that's at a museum in Auschwitz? The people perished, but their shoes, they remained. And thousands and thousands and thousands of boys and girls. You could look at, each time I look at this picture, I see a different pair of shoes. All the way back in the back, everybody was forced to take off their shoes. And the leather remains. If humanity is steadily getting better, how do we explain Rwandan genocide, which took place when I was in middle school? Many of us in the room were alive when almost 1 million people were hacked to death in about 90 days. This is at a Rwandan genocide museum. We explain this understanding that this is not how time works. This is how time works. And if this is how time works, what I want us to investigate tonight is, if this is time, where are we? It's an essential question. Because here's the thing, how you live when you're up there is very different than how you live when you're here. How you live, if you think you're here, you live very differently than the reality if you're here. And part of the struggle that we're having is we are living like we are at one of these peaks, but the truth is we are in one of our valleys. That's how many, 102, fully unarmed, black men, women, and children were killed by American police last year. 102. I extracted from that number a black man who was killed with a spoon. I took him out of that number. There was another black man who was killed with a screwdriver. I took him out. Another black man who was killed with a broom. Removed him from that number. We arrived at 102 people, African American, black men, women, and children, who were killed by American police last year. And that number is very sterile, but in that number are husbands and fathers, sons and daughters, people who were deeply valued. And I want to say this thought, it's a core thought. It's hard to know the time you're in when you're in it. It's hard to know the moment of history that you're in when you're in it. But let me give you context for where we are. Does anybody know who this man is? He's the 25th president. Not Taft, close. McKinley. Look, I heard a female voice say McKinley first. How do you know that was McKinley? That's a great guess. Ah, good. A history major, God bless you. There's always like 3 of us in a room this size, yeah. It's President William McKinley, and this picture is probably in about 1900. The last time 102 or more African Americans were lynched in this country, he was president. Not in the 50s, in the 50s and 60s, a lot of us thought that the worst era of lynching was during the Civil Rights Movement. During the 50s and 60s, they averaged 3 to 4 lynchings in this country per year. The worst era of lynching is in the 1890s and early 1900s. And the last time that this many people, which is the number of unarmed, and what does it mean to be lynched? What is a lynching but an extrajudicial killing? It is when someone is killed, it is when someone faces judge, jury, and executioner in a moment where they did not get due process. They did not go to court. They did not get to plead their case. And oftentimes, people are killed who committed misdemeanors. People pulled over for next to nothing. I'm thinking about Walter Scott, fully unarmed, who was pulled over for an expired tag on his car and ends up getting shot in the back. For what? Like, he might have done 30 days in jail for past due child support. I'm thinking about a brother in Cincinnati named Sam DuBose, who actually had a legal license plate on his car, but had forgotten to install the license plate on the front of his car. And in Ohio, you have to have one on the front and the back. And he had them. He just had not put the one on the front. He got killed. Officer feared for his life. That last year, the number of unarmed black folk killed by police matches the number of people who were lynched when he was president. Let me give you more context for where we are, because we are responsible. This is the time we live in. The deadliest hate crime against African Americans in almost 100 years was not when 4 little girls were killed in a Birmingham church, which was terrible, awful. It was not in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, but was when Dylan Roof walked into a Charleston church, sat through an entire Bible study, then killed the pastor and 8 other folk in that Bible study. The deadliest hate crime against black folk in this country in generations happened on our watch. I'm trying to show you where we are as a country. If this is true, how is this true? I want to push this. This is the state and federal prison population. How many of you have Netflix in the room? Netflix. If you don't, maybe your neighbor will let you borrow their password. And Netflix doesn't really be tripping on password sharing, but if you share it with too many people, they'll just send you an email saying, we'd like for you to pay a couple more dollars per month. They don't shut your account down, they just kind of created a little hustle out of it. And now, that's what they do. Now they say, oh, you have a multi-use account, you now owe us a couple more bucks. You need to get Netflix and you need to watch the documentary 13th. I have to watch it. It's mandatory viewing. Mandatory. Essential. Ava DuVernay was nominated for an Oscar. She could have called the documentary The New Jim Crow. Because in essence, it is the video version of Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow. And Michelle Alexander, who's an amazing scholar and legal expert, is a voice throughout the documentary. And both the book and the book, The New Jim Crow, which you should read, and The New Jim Crow is amazing, and a lot of people buy it, then don't read it. I want you to buy it and read it. So buy it, then actually read it, study it, understand it. And what the documentary 13th and The New Jim Crow explain is something that happened right about here. For those of you who can't see the numbers, this is a timeline at the bottom starting in 1925, and this is the number of people in prison. And this goes to 1925, it could go back to 1825 or 1725, that for all of American history, the number of people in prison in this country stayed, this number right here says 200,000, stayed below 200,000 for decades and decades. Here, something a little weird happened, and this is like a scientific anomaly. It popped barely above the line of 200,000, and then it corrected itself. That's normal, that stuff happens. But the documentary tells us that about 1974, the Nixon administration, you have to see this for yourself, that Richard Nixon's director of policy openly admitted that they had conversations asking, how do we criminalize blackness without saying it is illegal to be black? That's how he said it. He said at first the conversation was, how can we criminalize being black or being a hippie? And as the conversation evolved, they said, let's drop the hippie, because some of their sons and daughters had become those. And let's figure out how we can criminalize blackness without saying we are criminalizing blackness. These are the words they use. You see them in the documentary. And so they did two things. Right about here in 1974, they said, what laws do we currently have that we can apply only to black people and other people of color? And then secondly, what new laws can we create that we will only apply in inner cities and the people of color, particularly African Americans? Out of that came the war on drugs. It was not really a war on drugs at all. It was a war on black people. Because, and you should Google this, I hope that you can fact check everything that I say here. Google Washington Post black-white drug disparity. And there's an amazing study that I quote all the time that took place over 30 years that found that African Americans and white folk not only use drugs at almost the identical rate, but when they looked at the selling of drugs, they found that white folk sold more drugs and more types of drugs, but that African Americans were prosecuted 800% more. So, when you ask an average American, hey, describe to me what a drug dealer looks like, they're going to describe to you a black man in a hoodie. Why? Because it's black men in hoodies who are being prosecuted. But the studies found that white folk and black folk use drugs at the same rate, and that white folks sell more drugs, but that black folk are prosecuted 800% more. And so what you found here is, all of a sudden, the prison population explodes to the point that right now, the United States has nearly 3 million people incarcerated. To give that context, we have more people currently incarcerated than any country in the world. Let me push it harder. Right now, right at this moment, we have more people in jail than any country in the history of the world. In all of human history, whatever the early humans look like to you, until now, we have never had more people in a country in jail than we have in this country right now. And people say, and they see this, and they say, damn, Shaun, the justice system is broken. And I have to correct people because they see this and that is almost true. That's close to being right. But I have to tell people, I have to correct folks, this is not broken. This is functioning exactly as it was designed. It was built to do this. I'll show you broken. On this is science. This is broken. When it barely crept above the average, that's a momentary break in the system. And look at what it did. It corrected itself and went back below the average. This is not an accident. This is a complex set of laws. This was built on purpose. If this is an accident, then you can accidentally build a house. You can accidentally build not just a highway, but a set of highways. That's what that is. This is a complex system that was built on purpose. This outrageous growth, and understand this, crime all the way here is steady. As a matter of fact, crime is down right now. There was no explosion of crime, there was an explosion of prosecution. Right now, this is the international rates of imprisonment. We have more people in prison in our country than any country in the world. Right now, in the United States, we incarcerate a higher percentage of people than South Africa did at the height of apartheid. And here's what's interesting about that. If I lined 100, apartheid was a terrible, ugly, awful system. And most people agree with that. If I lined 100 people up and said, was apartheid an ugly, unethical, evil system? 99 people would say yes. But if you ask those same people, is this system in the United States an ugly, evil, unethical system? Studies show that about 30% of the people say yes. Even though math shows you that this prison system is as unjust of any prison system we've ever seen in the history of this world. That's why we must reject $200 million being designated for a youth jail in Seattle. Because here's what I know. If they're saying it's going to cost $200 million, that means it's really going to cost $400 million. If this is how humanity works, I want to show you a couple videos that I think proves that this is not true. If this is how humanity works, these videos don't make sense. If humanity is steadily getting better and better and better, I'm stuck on these videos. I don't know if we have audio for this, but we'll see. You do? Have you seen this before?
Yes. Yeah.
This is in McKinney, no, it sounds fine, man. It sounds fine. This is in McKinney, Texas. It's at a pool party. I'm talking about the criminalization of blackness. At this pool party in McKinney, Texas, are kids who are 13 or 14 years old. These are young kids. These aren't high school seniors. These aren't college students. These are babies, 13 or 14. It's in the summer. The kids, I don't know if they do this here in Seattle, but in McKinney, which is outside of Dallas, they have neighborhoods that have clubhouses and pools. Here it rains so much, I don't even know if y'all swim around here. I don't know what y'all do around here. But in McKinney, they have neighborhoods, and neighborhoods are like big, with like big open roads. Here it's a little different, right? And so the kids were at the pool party. I want to be clear. At the pool party, the kids, they were not drinking, they were not smoking, they were not fighting, they were not touching each other inappropriately. And I'm not even going to get into the complex nature of black folk and swimming, but most of the black kids were not even swimming, right? Right? It was just, I don't have the time to fully unpack that, but they were at the pool, but there was not a whole heck of a lot of swimming going on. They were just hanging out. That's what you do. So they're at the pool, and a white resident of the neighborhood does not recognize them. Calls the police. And the police get there, and I want to point some things out that I had never seen before. Three or four people. First, I had never noticed, because in a minute, the police officer begins to brutalize one young girl. She's a young girl, 14 years old, in a two-piece bikini, clearly unarmed, not dangerous, broken no law. He begins swinging her around like a rag doll, forces her face onto the grass, and gets on top of her in a very perverted way as she screams for her mother. And because that was so awful to watch, I missed a lot of other stuff that was going on that I want to unpack. I had never noticed these young men sitting on the grass with their hands behind their back. I could never determine if the officer told them to get that way or if they had already been trained to do that. If they had already learned over time that this is probably the best thing for me. Mind you, they're at a pool party. I want you to pay particular attention to this man right here who becomes a bit of a deputy. He kind of deputizes himself and becomes the assistant police officer on the scene, including putting his hands all over the kids, right? You saw what has happened right there? These two young, brave brothers right here saw their sister being brutalized, and it's about to get a lot worse. I won't even make us watch it. It's about to get a lot worse, it'll be deeply ugly. And this, you gotta understand, this is happening very quickly. And they see this young girl being thrown around like a rag doll, screaming for her life, and they have the idea, which makes a lot of sense. Let's just grab her and go. We've done nothing wrong here. Let's just grab her and go. Not thinking that he might kill them if they do so. And literally, that is him pulling his gun out and them running for their lives. We're talking about kids at a pool party. There's a young brother here, a young guy named Brandon Brooks is his name in the upper right-hand corner. He's actually like sweet, chunky 14-year-old white kid. And every group of black friends has a sweet, chunky white friend that rolls with them. Like, it's just how, you know, every group of black friends has their white crew member. And Brandon was the crew, he was the white crew member. And Brandon, who's 14, sweet kid, it's a painful moment for him where at first he's thinking, why is everyone else being brutalized? And I realize it's happening quickly. And he starts seeing his friends get on the ground with their hands behind their back. He starts seeing the girls swim around everywhere. And Brandon starts thinking, why is nobody doing anything to me? And it was the first time in Brandon's life that he understood personally, oh, it's because I'm white that they don't even care. They didn't care if he lived in the neighborhood or not, he didn't. And Brandon, at first, he says, and he did an interview later, he said, I just started walking around, and then I realized, oh my God, I need to film this. And thank God he did, because had he not filmed it, no one would have ever believed that this is actually what happened. And Brandon described it like this, for all of you Harry Potter fans in the room. Brandon described it like he had a Harry Potter cloak of invisibility. That to the officers, he was invisible. That is the definition of white privilege. And there are people, well-known people in this country, who say, there's no such thing as white privilege. Tell it to these young boys. Tell it to Brandon Brooks, who said he experienced it. If humanity is steadily getting better, I want to explain this. Have you seen this? This is Officer Ben Fields. He's one of my least favorite people on earth. Ben Fields posts videos of himself on YouTube lifting weights. And I'm still stumped. Did Ben have a buddy who filmed the videos? And if so, that's a little weird. I got buddies, but I don't have buddies who would film me lifting weights type of buddies. That's not all the way weird, but what's really weird is Getting a video of yourself lifting weights and thinking, I'm gonna put this on YouTube. Like, that's just peculiar to me. Like, that takes real effort. And there are actual videos of this man lifting weights on YouTube. When he was a student at this high school, he set the deadlifting records there. He's the strength and conditioning coach for the football team. A young girl, this young girl right here, is a foster child, and most of the kids in the class did not even know who she was. Here's how small the world is. I came to know her attorney. Her attorney was best friends with the pastor of the church who was killed in Charleston. That's how small the world is right now. So she has her cell phone out in class. The teacher asked her to put her cell phone up. How many people are teachers in the room or educational administrators? A rookie mistake, and I was a teacher too. No, not you, what he does. You're not a rookie mistake, what happens here. He asked her to put the phone up, and she put it up. Crisis resolved. He then says, no, bring me the phone. Power trip. She did not talk back. She just froze up. She got nervous. Students described to me when I interviewed some of the students that she went catatonic. Like she just froze. She was not going to give that phone up. I never determined if it was just deeply valuable to her. She was not going to give it up. I don't know if there was something on there she didn't want somebody to see. Who knows? It was hers. She'd already put it up. She wasn't going to get it out. The teacher then calls the principal. The principal is so busy, he says, let me call the police. And he's an actual police officer, not school security. He's armed. And when we see what we see here, Ben Fields has been in that classroom for about 5 seconds. He's not in there arguing with her, saying, I need you to get up. It's your last chance. If you don't get up right now, I'm going to snatch you up. None of that happened. He goes in there, he asks the teacher, who is it? And then this happens. He throws her 6 feet across the room, tears a ligament, carpet scars on her face. And he puts her hands behind her back and arrests her. He arrests her for having a cell phone in class. I've never heard one instance of a white child being arrested for having a cell phone out in class. It doesn't happen. It's not a thing. Maybe you get a note home. Possibly you get detention. Probably not. Not only does she get arrested, but the young lady who's filming this video, they arrest her. And I lived in Atlanta at the time, and in Atlanta, it's weird, like Atlanta's like the retirement community for the civil rights movement. So it's like all types of elders from the civil rights movement in Atlanta. And I spoke to several people when this happened who told me, and it shook me, and it showed me that now is not what we think it is. They told me, Shaun, when we were integrating schools in the 50s and 60s, we always knew that once we got inside of the school, that we were safe. That it might be hard, we might be harassed, but never would we think that we would be brutalized by police inside of the school. They're like, Shaun, that's new. This next video is at a Donald Trump rally in Louisville, Kentucky, and this young lady who I came to know, brilliant, so smart, she's prophetic. This was in March of the Republican primary, and she literally found me the day this happened, and she told me when I interviewed her that she had the thought, she was a junior at the University of Louisville, she had the thought, Donald Trump could win not only the Republican primary, he could win this whole thing. She was just observing the country. And she told me this then. And back then he was still a long shot. And she thought, I just want to go see this weirdness for myself. She was not a protester, she was just an observer. But there is something peculiar about her at this event. One, it's like a weird men's rally, because women didn't really go to his events. And then she's pretty much the only black person there at the event. And people began pointing her out. And Donald Trump himself instructs the men, not security, but the men to get her out. And here's what they do. Hold on. You see this man in a red hat? What do you think that red hat says on it? Make America Great Again. That's a man named Matthew Heimbach. Matthew Heimbach, a well-known white supremacist. Before this event, he was well-known. I did not know him. He is already listed as a registered hate group leader on multiple databases. Matthew Heimbach, who not only attended the events, but openly admitted that he was there to recruit people. Through about 100 rows of people, they push her through them. And I wrote the article that afternoon, and I said what shocked me the most, what disturbed me, was that a veteran participated in this. Are there any veterans in the room? Any veterans? So I got a letter, Robert Gill, God bless you. I got a letter, an email from a communications officer in the Army who said, sir, we know what you're trying to do, but we need you to make a correction. This man is not a veteran. He just dresses like one. I had to read the email a couple times and think like, hold on. Like I had to thought like, are you saying he used to because you're not a former veteran. You're always a veteran. So I was thinking like, what do they mean here? He was never in the military. Not the National Guard, nothing. He dresses like one because he loves the way people treat him when he goes to these events in a uniform. You could imagine at a Donald Trump event, being an elderly white man who people assume fought in some wonderful long ago war, like this man, and so the people gave him great deference. Like I don't know if you've heard of cosplay. Like, I did not know that seniors did cosplay. I did not know that. Like, I had the thought, like I knew young people did this. But it's like, I did not know that old folk did cosplay like this. This is a well-known businessman who did this on the side. It was literally like he would do this, and people thought he was in the military. Hey, young man, what's your name? What's your name? Yeah, I'm not picking on you, I just want to know your name. Muhammad. If this was a Barack Obama event, Muhammad, and instead of white men, it was almost all black men. And sorry to use you in this illustration. What's your name, young lady? And Bethany decides, I just want to see the Barack Obama event for myself. And you're there as a black man, and Bethany's there as just an interested observer. And weirdly, Barack Obama tells the men to get the lady out, which already makes the story like science fiction. Like, all of us are like, no, I don't think that could ever, no, that's not possible. There's too much dignity in class. I'm like, no, that wouldn't happen. But just imagine it happened. In this crowd, Muhammad, was the Louisville City Police, the Kentucky State Police, and the Secret Service. If you and all the black men in the crowd began to push Bethany like a pinball all through the crowd, what do you think would happen? Do you think police would watch you, Muhammad, shove her around?
I guess like it depends on who they support, I guess, because like most police, they just believe in like their presidents or whatever, who they're voting for, they don't do nothing about it.
So you think they would just watch you? What do you think, man?
Who, me?
If it was,
Hey, somebody getting shot in there.
Somebody gonna get shot, you
Right
think?
there.
You on the ground.
Right there. Right there.
I had to have the thought, and I talked with her about this. I think what's really disturbing is that nobody helped her.
Right?
Not one officer, not Secret Service, not even a regular man who just looked at it and said, oh, hold on, guys. I'm going to take her out of here myself. This is not right. Let me just take her out. Nobody, not a single person. And you know and I know that if a white woman was being shoved through the crowd, Secret Service would descend on that crowd and rescue her like she was Whitney Houston in The Bodyguard. And pull her out of there like she was royalty. Well, just like she was a human being, right? The next one is very different, it's the last video. The next one is at the Donald Trump rally in Raleigh, North Carolina. And there's a brother there, and he actually was a protester. And as they escort him out, there's a man who sees him, and in front of police, he decides, I'm gonna throw an elbow right on this man's face. I want you to see what happens. Because for a long time, all I was focused on was what the man did to him. But there's something deeper going on in this one. I want you to see it. Okay. These people in brown shirts, they are sheriffs, county sheriffs there in Raleigh. I count 7 of them in the video in total. Okay, let me show you. Oh! Did you catch that? Now, these are the sheriffs. They are staring him in the face. I had to look at it for a while. On this screen you can't tell, but it's my job to watch these things hundreds and hundreds of times. They're looking right at him. And he goes up, he throws an elbow in front of 7 sheriffs, throws an elbow in the black man's face. They then arrest the black man who gets hit. And the white man walks back to his seat. Now, I was in Oakland giving this presentation at a high school in Oakland. And I said in my presentation, I said, there's not a black man in America who would throw this elbow on a white man's face. And a brother came up to me after the event, and he's like, bro, I don't know, I would throw the elbow. And if you've ever been to Oakland, it was like the most Oakland moment of the night. Because he was like, bro, I don't know, I would throw the elbow. And I said, no. I said, I don't mean that there's not a brother who would throw an elbow. I said, there's not a brother in America who would throw the elbow and then go take a seat afterwards. All of us need to know a few brothers who would throw the elbow. Like, you know, like, you push anybody far enough, they'll throw the elbow. But there's not a black man in America who would throw that elbow with the understanding, I'm gonna throw it in front of 7 sheriffs, and then I'm gonna go have a popcorn and a drink and finish the rally. That's not gonna happen. And here's what I definitely know would not happen. If, by some miraculous grace of God, black man, you threw the elbow in front of the police and then took a seat, you would not him again, we might have to kill him. I'm thinking, and I thought when I first saw it, first it took us a week to identify the man. And no, like the man, once he realized that there were people like me that were on him, like trying to find him, the dude went ghost. It was for a moment, it was like, this guy does not exist. Like I think he went to like Cousin Tom's house in the mountains and like unplugged the phone and like, we could not find this man anywhere. And I had the thought, I'm close with this, and I think we'll be able to take just a few questions. That it took, what's your name, man? Devin? Can I ask how old you are, Devin?
47.
47. It took 47 years of life to make you. Like, Devin is not Devin because he watched a movie or read a book. Like the way you view the world, like you didn't end up in this room today on the floor watching my presentation because you had a deep conversation with somebody last week. Like it took 47 years of life to make you. And what I realized, it took 70 years to make this man. And 70 years of life taught him, which is not your experience, 70 years of life taught him, when I see a black man that I want to throw an elbow on in front of police, doggone it, I walk up and throw the elbow. Is that your experience, Devin? I'm not trying to embarrass you. It's like, no, it's not. I did not know anyone had that. I did not know that anyone arrived at such a conclusion. Like, that's a foreign concept to me. And what I learned was, and what I've come to understand, is that all of us are the way we are because of a complex set of experiences and moments and issues and encounters. Like, this man, it took 70 years to build him. And 7 years taught him he can say what he wants and do what he wants with very little repercussions. Here's why. Here's where we are right now. We are in a dip in the quality of our humanity. Now, right now, we are exaggerating that Donald Trump created this dip. He is a symptom of the dip and a cause of it. He's a symptom of it. This man in the video is a symptom of the dip. Here we are, right here. This is you. This is where we live. More people in prison than any country in the history of the world. More people being shot, unarmed people being shot and killed by police than any year of lynching since 1900. The deadliest hate crime in almost 100 years, right here. This is the PG-13 part of the presentation. I wrote an article today for the New York Daily News on how, to me, today is International Women's Day. I spoke at the women's rally in Westlake. Do I have that right? I don't even know where I am. People just drive me and drop me off and say, go. I just go. I spoke at Cleveland High School earlier. They just drop me off and tell me where the microphone is. I just go. And so I talked about, all of a sudden, Women's Day takes on a whole new meaning when Donald Trump is your president. Like, it's not... I remember previous International Women's Days. This one is different. Because we're here. We have a president who's been accused of sexual harassment or sexual assault by 17 different women. Like, and we didn't find that out after he was elected. It wasn't like he got elected and we're like, oh my God, he did what? It was widely known. Do you remember when the audio first came out of him hanging in the truck with his buddy Billy Bush, explaining to Billy that when he sees women he's attracted to, he goes up on them and just kisses them, which is crazy all by itself? Like, at the time, when that video was filmed, he was 58 years old. Okay, we're not talking about like, man, he was kind of crazy in his young days. He was 58. Like, the notion that and it was like, it could have stopped right there, but like, whoa, you kiss women who don't know you? Like, I don't even know who does that. And then I won't even repeat. Then he took it to a level, and I'm like, did he just say what I think he said? And I had the thought at the time, like a lot of us, I'm like, oh, dude is done. He is toast. The man just said he grabs women's genitals. I'm like, what? You said what? And he didn't even, had he said that, it'd been a little better than what he actually said. You know how that man gets elected? We're right here. He gets elected because we're right here. Our nation has lost itself. If it ever had itself. What I know is you only elect a man who has said what he said, done what he's done, when you are in a dip in the quality of humanity. I need you to understand that we're here, and here's why it's urgent. If you understand that we're here, you live your life radically different than if we're here or than if we're way up there. Harriet Tubman, I'm paraphrasing a powerful quote from her. Harriet Tubman said, "In my life, I freed hundreds of slaves." And she says, "I would have freed hundreds more had they only known they were slaves." It's like, whoa. Here's what she's saying here. She's saying, I went down into the dip. And some people realized that they were in the dip. And she said, I was able to rescue them. And she said, other times we would go onto the plantations. And because folk had only experienced plantation life and had no concept for anything other than that, it's actually a tragic quote. Some people did not fully understand that there was something other than what they had lived. Some people actually did not fully understand that they were in the dip. She was not able to rescue them. This is not me calling you a slave, but what I am telling you is, if you don't recognize where we are right now, you'll live like we're not there. And here's what's scary. This dip, it can last for a few years. Pour the mic out. we can change the batteries, but I got a loud voice. Here we go. There we go. You can hear me? Listen, this dip can last for a few years, but if you think of this dip as the transatlantic slave trade, the dip can last for 300 years. There is no natural guarantee that we're going to accidentally find our way out of this. That's not how it works. When you find yourself as a nation in this, has anybody seen Get Out? Like, this is like, we are in the sunken place. We are in it. If you haven't seen it, it doesn't make sense. You have to go see Get Out. You know, you have to go see it. Powerful movie. It's not just a scary movie. It has deep, it tells a deep racial story. And so, you can remain in the dip for years or decades or centuries, and you do not accidentally find your way out. Final thought. I want to explain to you how you get into a dip. Dips follow. Okay, somebody designed this slide. I designed this slide. You can see a quality difference there a little bit. I am noticing how that one looks very professional. That one looks very Shaun Kingish right here. The point will still be valid nonetheless. That when there is a deeply innovative moment that disturbs the primary power structure, ugliness happens afterwards. Let me explain. This will be 300 years of slavery in the United States. The South is comfortable. The North is pretty okay with it. Slavery, slavery, slavery. Then there's the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment. Deeply disturbed the white power structure in the South. There was a civil war. Slavery as we knew it, if you've seen 13th, slavery as we knew it ended. And a lot of folk were angry at the innovation. And two things happened after the 13th Amendment, after the Emancipation Proclamation, after the Civil War. One was lynching. Why was there so little lynching during slavery? Does anybody want to guess?
That's bad money.
Bad for business. Bad for business. As a matter of fact, during slavery, there were hundreds of laws explaining how much Black lives mattered. It's deep. It's ugly. Black lives, they mattered up to a point. But folk are like, hey, don't harm these folk. You do not have permission to harm these folk. And guess what? There was no KKK during slavery. Why not? Let's think about it. What would they, why not?
They were hunting down runaway slaves instead.
Yeah, they were hunting down runaway slaves, but
Because they were working. They were building this nation.
they're building the nation. They built the White House. You know, they built this country. It's a commodity. But when there was an introduction of an innovation, there was an ugly dip. You have the introduction of lynching in the KKK. Here's another one. After the Civil War, you begin to have the civil rights movement, and black folk begin really fighting hard for the right to vote. And right here, you have the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, and African Americans are guaranteed equal rights to vote and protections under the law. Guess what happened in response? Mass incarceration. That timeline I showed you where in 1974, Richard Nixon and the White House said, we need to criminalize blackness because it is a problem for our votes. If all black folk could vote, how will we ever win an election? Here's the last one. I'll close with this. We have 43 white presidents. This country loved white presidents. White president, white president, white president. White male presidents. White man, white man, white man, white man, 43 of them. And then in 2008, we went and got real innovative. I mean, it was a real innovation. I'm not even talking about Barack Obama's politics, but if you've ever been in an elementary school classroom and seen the pictures of all of America's presidents, and then seeing the very tail end of that, a black man, you're like, whoa, that is deep. And what is also painful is the white man that now comes right after the black man. It's like, oh, you got me. You got me. That we not only elected a black man as president, but his name was Barack Hussein Obama. Like, that sounds simple now. But I remember when I first learned, I was like, his name is what? When I first heard that he was this leader and emerging, I was like, what is his name again? It's so familiar to us now, but it was a deeply innovative idea that there was this black man who's from the south side of Chicago, kind of. He's also kind of from Hawaii. And his father is African, and his mother's a white woman from Kansas who moved them to Indonesia. And I'm thinking, that is a complex story that for 43 times we just said, let's do a white man as president. We're gonna do the white man as president. And then we said, let's not only have a black man as president, but let's elect a black man unlike almost any black man in America. And guess what happened? It's real, it's painful. Every year after Barack Obama was elected, hate crimes increased in this country. It's peculiar. The hate crimes did not increase when George Bush was president. They didn't. Terrorist groups, hate groups increased. Patriot groups, they called them, increased every year after Barack Obama was elected. Year after year after year. Let me tell you something else that happened. See, there is a dip when there is an introduction of an innovation that disturbs the primary people in power. You know who was really disturbed when Barack Obama was elected? Donald Trump. He started almost immediately. We don't have to guess, he tweeted it. Real talk. You can see them today. They're still there. He won't delete old tweets. And no matter how damning they are, because he already said, you heard him, he said, I could go to Central Park or Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody. That's what he said. And my followers would not care. He said that last year. It's true, it's clearly true. In 2008 and 2009, he began saying, a lot like that 70-year-old man who threw the elbow, he began saying, did you hear the 70-year-old man? There was a black man who was clearly an American, who he throws an elbow, and the first thing that the 70-year-old man said is, we don't even know if he's an American. What the hell you think a black man with braids in the middle of Raleigh, North Carolina, what do you think he is? If not, of course he's an American. Where did he get that? He got that from Donald Trump. that for 8 years straight, Donald Trump, year after year, month after month, said, I don't think Barack Obama's an American. He tweeted it. I looked at some of the tweets just a few days ago. I saw a tweet that he wrote in 2011. Barack Obama had been president for 3 years, where he said Barack Obama continues to say that he's an American and put quotes around America. I mean, he's been president for 3 years. 2012, he said he was sending private investigators to Hawaii. Barack Obama had already, here's the thing. No one disputes that Barack Obama's mom, Ann Dunham, a white woman, was his mother. And here's what's crazy. She could have had Barack in any country in the world, and he's still an American. You do know if you're pregnant and you take a vacation to England and happen to give birth to your baby's not British. That's not how it works. Your baby's still an American. You're an American citizen. It does not matter where you give birth to your child. That's not how it works. She had never visited Kenya. She had never been to Africa. She never did go to Africa a day in her life. But even if she had given birth to him in Kenya, he'd still be an American, because she was an American. The whole thing was based on a lie. It was never about whether or not Barack Obama was an American. It's because he was black. John McCain was not born in the United States of America. He was born on a military base in a foreign country. Barack Obama was actually born in the United States, in Hawaii. Produced his birth certificate. Even had to do the embarrassing thing and found people who were there when his mother gave birth. There was a newspaper clipping of when she gave birth. And here's the question. Are you trying to tell me that Ann Dunham in 1962 began a conspiracy knowing that he was going to be president? That some other people said, one day this chosen special one among us, people will dispute where he was born. So let's place an announcement in a Hawaii newspaper. It didn't happen. But something happened. When Donald Trump began saying it, for the first time in his life, he did not just have fans, he had followers. People who began seeing him as their leader. And here's what I know. Here's what I know to be true. If we have 43 white presidents and we decided right here, let's not be innovative, let's elect John Kerry. And John Kerry became president. Or Joe Biden became president. Joe Biden actually, you may not remember, he ran against Barack Obama in the primary. Say Joe Biden won. Here's what I know. In 2008, Donald Trump was appearing at WrestleMania. He literally, if you follow this stuff, shaved people's heads as a stunt at WrestleMania. And had a white man been elected, in what world would Donald Trump ever run against? In what world would he ever even emerge as a credible voice? He emerged because we did something innovative, and there's always a dip after an innovation. I want you to go back, and you can Google this. Atlantic Magazine, and I think I can take questions from only 3 or 4 people because of the time, and then somehow I'm gonna try to take a whole lot of selfies, okay? We're gonna figure that out. Now, when we do selfies, you can't do a selfie and a deep question. Like people, y'all try to do the sneak attack. You try to do selfie, sneak attack, deep question. It can't be that, all right? We gotta do the selfie, and you can email me the deep question that I probably will not get a chance to respond to. I want to let you down gently on that. Atlantic Magazine wrote this endorsement of Hillary Clinton. You have to see it. It's eerie now to read it in light of her not winning. And in their endorsement of Hillary Clinton, it was a really ugly endorsement. The title of the endorsement was, "We Must Stop Donald Trump." It was not, "We really love Hillary Clinton," which would have been a great endorsement. It was, "We must stop Donald Trump." I did not know this, but I did not know it I'm not trying to embarrass you, I'm just giving you some love, that's all. Oh, okay. All right. You're not leaving. Well, thank you. God bless you. Atlantic Magazine has been in continuous publication since 1858. I had no idea. The longest running publication in American history. And they said when they endorsed Hillary Clinton that they had only endorsed a president 2 times since 1858. They endorsed Abraham Lincoln in 1860, and they republished the endorsement. It was actually a powerful endorsement where they said, our nation is about to be split in 2. True. And they said, we believe this is the man who could save the Union. And in their endorsement of Abraham Lincoln, they say, we also believe in the process of saving the Union, he might end slavery. And those things happened. The Emancipation Proclamation happened. He found a deeply destructive way throughout the Civil War to save the Union. And they did not, after they endorsed Abraham Lincoln, they did not endorse another president for 104 years. In 1964, through all the early 1900s, they endorsed no one. No one else in the 1800s. They endorsed Abraham Lincoln in 1860. And in 1964, 104 years later, they endorsed Lyndon Johnson. And they republished the endorsement. It's painful. Because in their endorsement of Lyndon Johnson was a lot like their endorsement of Hillary Clinton. They basically say in their endorsement, we're not huge fans of Lyndon Johnson. But our president was just assassinated. Imagine 3 years into Barack Obama's first term if he was assassinated. Imagine how devastated millions and millions and millions of people would be. And we don't think about it, but young Barack Obama in the White House was very similar to young John F. Kennedy. But they were married to a first lady that millions of people loved and adored. They had young kids in the White House. They were seen as a new evolution of American president. And in their endorsement of Lyndon Johnson, they talked more about Kennedy than they did Johnson. And they said, our nation deserves to have someone who will continue John F. Kennedy's policies. And we think the best person to do that is Lyndon Johnson. And they said, also, our nation appears like it's about to be split in 2, again, 100 years after the Civil War, because of the Civil Rights Movement. And we think that Lyndon Johnson would sign civil rights legislation that this country desperately needs. Lyndon Johnson won, and it was Lyndon Johnson, not Kennedy, who signed the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. And then they endorsed no one for the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. They didn't even endorse Barack Obama either time. And they said, this is what I want you, and I'll end with this. They said there were 3 moments in history that freaked them out. The Civil War, I get that. Right? The Civil Rights Movement, I get it. And then right now. That when historians took a step back from 1858 until now and found 3 periods that they were really worried about, one was the Civil War, one was the Civil Rights Movement, and one was a few weeks ago. That's where you live. You live in one of those moments. I used to play this game where I call it mind movies, where I would wonder in my mind, who would I be if I was alive in the Civil Rights Movement? Have you ever wondered that? Like seen it and wondered, like, wow, would I be brave like they were brave? Would I march like they marched? Would I be a freedom rider and drive across country to go in to the desperate places and ugly places where there was, horrific bigotry and ugliness and racism? Would I do that? Would I speak like Malcolm or Martin? Would I refuse to give up my seat like Rosa? Would I do that? And all of us have wondered, like, wow, I wonder who I would be. Or who would my friends be if it was in that time? I don't think you have to do that anymore. You no longer have to wonder who you would be if you were alive in 1963 or 1967. What you really need to be asking yourself now is, what did you do yesterday? What did you do today? The greatest indication of who you would be if you were alive in the Civil Rights Movement is what you did with your life today. I don't mean that to make you feel weird or guilty. But it's the best, because we live in a time right now where policies and people are ugly. You know this. It's deeply problematic. And the best way I can predict who you would be in the civil rights movement is what you're going to do with your life tomorrow. That's how I know. Because here's what I believe. Right now, when stuff gets really weird, we say, wow, this feels like the 60s. I think 60 years from now, people are going to say, wow, this feels like 2017. We live in that weird pinpoint in history that decades from now, our grandchildren are going to look back and be like, when they think of an ugly time, it's going to be now. And the question is, what are you going to do? Think of what it took. Say this is what it took to get through slavery. It took a civil war. Think of what it took to get through Jim Crow. It took the civil rights movement. We're talking about Medgar and Martin, John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Malcolm. We're talking about freedom riders who were killed. Like, do you know what it took to overcome Jim Crow? That's what it's going to take for us to overcome. I don't mean it's going to take death. I don't know that. It's going to take tremendous sacrifice. And what I want to leave you with is, if we don't begin organizing like the Civil War, the Civil Rights Movement, we're going to get stuck here. Drop this pipe dream that Donald Trump is going to get impeached next month. Forget that. It's not going to happen. For him to be impeached would require congresspeople with guts. We don't have that, either side. Democrats, Republicans, rare. It would require people with ethics, morality. Republicans have such a stronghold in the House and Senate right now, and Democrats are so deeply unorganized. Like what's your name, man? Yeah, what's your name? If I asked you, man, what is the Democratic Party's plan? Like, I didn't even finish the joke and you already started laughing. What is the Democratic Party's plan to take back power in this country? Do you know it? Nobody does. There is no plan. And if there is a plan and none of us know it, that means the plan's not working. This notion, I mean, maybe he will do something, Trump will do something so outrageous he gets impeached. I doubt it. Bill Clinton was impeached by Republicans, an opposing party. You understand? These people are so deeply embedded with him that to impeach him would be an indictment on their own integrity. Because Donald Trump is no different today than he was last month, or month before last, or 6 months ago. He is being the man we knew he would be. What I'm telling you is that we're going to find our way out of this dip by organizing and strategizing and fighting back on the local level. And you should fight like people's lives depend on it, because they do. If we have a few questions, I can take a few questions, but thank you all so much for coming out. Listen, I know it's serious, but thank you for coming out and doing this. Appreciate y'all.